Hello, good morning. You're watching DD India and I'm Preeti presenting this edition of News on the Hour, a show which we get for you every day to make sure that you keep yourself abreast with everything that's making it to the headlines. We get you national updates, international updates, updates from the world of business and sports, enough to keep you engaged for the next 1 hour. First, the top stories. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar says India, following developments in Afghanistan very carefully, focuses on ensuring security in Afghanistan and the safe return of Indian nationals, says historical relationship with Afghan people to guide India's approach to Afghanistan in the coming days. At least 3 people killed and more than a dozen injured in anti-Taliban protests in the Afghan city of Jalalabad as Taliban moves to consolidate power. Ashraf Ghani takes asylum in UAE, says left Kabul to prevent bloodshed, denies reports of carrying money. NATO to chair an emergency meeting of foreign ministers today to discuss developments in Afghanistan. Meanwhile, IMF suspends Afghanistan's access to fund resources over lack of clarity on government. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh to launch Defence India Startup Challenge 5.0. The move is aimed to encourage startups to become more attuned to innovative concepts and is a massive leap towards leveraging the startup ecosystem to develop defence technologies. BJP's Jan Ashiewad Yatra continues across the country. Prominent ministers and party leaders scheduled to take part in Jan Ashiewad Yatra in different parts of the country to reach out to the people directly. All COVID protocols to be strictly followed during the Yatra. India's cumulative COVID vaccination coverage crosses 56.64 crore, with more than 56.36 lakh vaccine doses administered in the last 24 hours. Milestone of 50 crore COVID sample testing achieved. Last 10 crore samples tested in just 55 days. And in sport, India's 4x400 meters mixed relay team wins a bronze at World Athletic Under-20 in Nairobi, while at World Junior Wrestling Championships in Russia, Indian men's freestyle campaign finishes with a 6-medal haul, including 1 silver and 5 bronze medals. Alright, those were the top stories. Let's get to the news in detail now. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar said that India is looking at evolving situation in Kabul. Speaking to media on the sidelines of the UN briefing session in New York, Dr. Jaishankar said that India's focus is on security and safe return of Indian nationals from Afghanistan. Also stressing on India-Afghan long-lived relationship, the External Affairs Minister said that for India, it reflected what was a historical relationship with Afghan people. He said that the relationship with Afghan people will continue. Let's listen in the other points the External Affairs Minister covered on the issue during the media interaction.
As many of you know, I had the honor to participate in a series of events today focused on the theme of protecting the protectors, which is ensuring the safety and security of UN peacekeepers. We started the day at the Peacekeepers Memorial by paying tribute to UN peacekeepers who've sacrificed their lives in the line of duty. And I'm very thankful to the UN Secretary General for joining me on the occasion, and to the entire Council for paying tribute to UN peacekeepers. Now, for the first time ever, the Security Council actually has adopted a resolution unanimously today, which calls for accountability for crimes committed against UN peacekeepers. It was co-sponsored by all 15 members of the Security Council, and I believe nearly 80 members of the General Assembly so far. At today's open debate on technology and peacekeeping, the Council unanimously called for taking measures to assist peacekeepers operating under challenging conditions and by enhancing their safety and security. On our part, India offered a 4-point framework anchored in utilizing modern technology for securing peacekeepers, which highlighted the need to deploy proven technologies, information and intelligence systems, adapt to improvements, and to promote training and capability building. The Security Council also adopted a presidential statement on this particular issue, this focused, of course, on utilizing technology to assist peacekeepers. Now, where India is concerned, we have a long history in peacekeeping. We have partnered with the UN and we have contributed to the rollout of the Unite Aware platform, which is a situational awareness software program that will utilize modern surveillance technology for real-time threat assessments to peacekeepers and help them obviously enhance their security. This will access live video and satellite imagery, and in very volatile circumstances also deliver early warnings to peacekeepers. We intend to deploy this initially in 4 missions in Cyprus, Somalia, South Sudan, and Mali. We believe that consistent training and capacity building is very important, and therefore to that end we have signed an MOU with the UN earlier today for partnership for technology in peacekeeping and with the UNSC for ISR Academy. So we are hopeful that these initiatives of the Indian presidency will provide the UN peacekeepers with the wherewithal to implement their mandate and to secure them to the best possible effect.
Yoshita Singh with Press Trust of India. Thank you, Mr. Jaishankar, for addressing us here. A regional question, how does India view and deal with the Taliban leadership now in Afghanistan? And also the terrorist safe havens and sanctuaries in Pakistan have been a cause of concern for countries in the region and India as well. Now with the Taliban regime, how do you see the security situation? Are you concerned that the Pak-based terrorists can exploit the situation in Afghanistan? Thank you.
Well, at the moment, we are, like everybody else, very carefully following developments in Afghanistan. I think our focus is on ensuring the security in Afghanistan and the safe return of Indian nationals who are there. So that is really what has been very much the focus of my own engagements here, talking to the UN Secretary General, to other colleagues who are here, as well as with the US Secretary of State a few days ago.
Dear Foreign Minister, James Bayes from Al Jazeera. A follow-up question on that. India's had considerable investment and involvement in Afghanistan over the last 20 years. If, as now seems likely, there is a Taliban government or a Taliban-dominated government, will India be engaged in Afghanistan?
Well, look, I think first of all, while you used the word investment, for us, it reflected what was a historical relationship with the Afghan people. I think that relationship with the Afghan people obviously continues, and that will guide our approach to Afghanistan in the coming days. At this time, I think as I said, these are early days. Our focus right now is on ensuring the safety and security of Indian nationals who are there.
Mr. Minister, Michelle Nichols from Reuters. Has India had any communication with the Taliban in recent days?
Well, look, I think at this point of time we are looking at what is the situation, evolving situation in Kabul. Obviously, the Taliban and its representatives have come to Kabul, so I think we need to take it on from there. So thank you again very much.
External Affairs Minister will preside over a briefing session on threats to international peace and security caused by terrorist acts. That will happen in New York today. Earlier, the External Affairs Minister on Wednesday said that UN peacekeeping missions continue to operate in challenging settings involving terrorists, armed groups and non-state actors. Chairing the UN Security Council open debate on technology and peacekeeping at the UN headquarters in New York on Wednesday, Dr. S. Jaishankar said that UN peacekeeping cannot afford to cede the information advantage to those determined to undermine the prospects for peace by using modern technology to aid their violent cause. He announced India's support to UN in the rollout of Unite Aware, a technology platform for peacekeeping missions. Dr. Jaishankar proposed a 4-point framework for securing UN peacekeepers to meet contemporary threats.
First, we must focus on operationally proven, cost-effective, widely available, reliable and field-serviceable technologies. They must also prioritize mobility, both in the sense of agile maneuverability of mission assets and in the sense of use of mobile, digital or IT platforms. Second, we need a sound information and intelligence foundation. Only this will ensure early warning and mobilizing a coherent and early response. It therefore gives me great pleasure to announce that India is supporting the UN in the rollout of Unite Awareness Platform across select peacekeeping missions. Thirdly, we must contribute to ensuring that technological improvements are continuous and are available on the ground in the gear that peacekeepers carry and the weapons and tools that they use to enhance their mobility, performance, endurance, range, and load carrying capabilities while guaranteeing their safety and security. Fourthly, consistent training and capacity building of peacekeepers in the realm of technology needs attention and investment.
Wednesday's session began with the screening of Unite Aware Situational Awareness Platform video. India is partnering with the United Nations for the rollout of the software. Let's take a look at this clip by the UN. Unite Aware is a situational awareness software program which utilizes modern surveillance technology and provides real-time threat assessment to improve the overall security situation of the UN peacekeepers.
United Nations peacekeepers are deployed in some of the most challenging and perilous environments in the world, doing what others cannot or will not do. They frequently face threats from armed groups, terrorists, and criminals, many of whom have access to sophisticated weapons and technology. The UN Secretariat's strategy for the digital transformation of UN peacekeeping, with its connections to the Action for Peacekeeping initiatives, addresses how to better integrate the use of technologies to improve the safety and security of peacekeepers, enhance situational awareness and field support, and facilitate substantive mandate implementation. We must protect the protectors, who are working for the cause of peace and security. To this end, Unite Aware has been developed and recently piloted in MINUSCA. Unite Aware is designed to collect, visualize and analyze vast amounts of complex operational information from many different sources, and present this data to inform short-term crisis response and longer-term decision-making. When deployed, missions will be able to record data on critical incidents and events, follow daily operational activities like patrols, vehicle and air asset movements, access live video and satellite imagery, as well as information from external sources, and quickly retrieve layers of mission logistic and operational data. In volatile environments, detailed knowledge and understanding of past and current events can help deliver early warnings, which make the difference between life and death for peacekeepers and local populations. Peacekeeping is, first and foremost, a partnership. Our collective success depends on every partner playing their role with unwavering commitment. This includes the Security Council, troop and police contributors, regional organizations, host governments, and financial contributors who together allow the more than 100,000 UN peacekeepers deployed around the world, help protect nearly 100 million lives. India has a long and steadfast relationship with UN peacekeeping. Over 250,000 Indian peacekeepers have served in UN missions since 1948, with more than 5,500 troops and police currently deployed worldwide. India fully recognizes that peacekeeping is moving into a new phase, where technology will play the critical role in addressing peacekeeping challenges, and has committed $1.64 million to support a successful rollout of the Unite Aware technology platform, as well as technology training courses for uniformed personnel at the UNSC 4 ISR Academy for Peace Operations in Entebbe. Working together in partnership, we can make it happen.
India's permanent representative to the UN and current president of the UN Security Council, Ambassador T.S. Tirumurti, in a video message, paid homage to all the peacekeepers on a day dedicated for protecting the protectors.
Under our presidency of the UN Security Council, India devoted 18th August completely to UN peacekeeping. India has over the decades been the largest troop contributor at over 250,000 troops for UN peacekeeping in nearly 50 missions. We were also the first country to deploy an all-women formed police unit in a UN mission. The day started with both Honorable External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar and UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres attending a solemn ceremony at the UN Peacekeepers Memorial. Subsequently, the External Affairs Minister chaired the UN Security Council meeting. The first was adoption of a Council resolution on protecting the peacekeepers against impunity, tabled by India. This resolution strengthens the legal framework to ensure that perpetrators of serious crime against peacekeepers are brought to justice. Nearly 175 Indian peacekeepers have paid the ultimate sacrifice over the years. We also screened a video in the Council on Unite Aware Situational Awareness Platform, whose rollout India is supporting in 4 peacekeeping missions. This unique technology platform will allow technology and intelligence support in real time with UAVs, mobile communication, satellite imagery, etc. This is India walking the talk on enhancing technology for security of UN peacekeepers. India will also be supporting the United Nations C4ISR Academy for peace operations. The high-level event of India on technology and peacekeeping was chaired by the External Affairs Minister, in which the UN Secretary General also shared his thoughts. The presidential statement adopted by the Security Council was the first standalone presidential statement on the topic of technology and peacekeeping. Through this presidential statement, the Security Council has emphatically recognized that technology can and should act as a force multiplier by enhancing performance, saving resources, protecting civilians, and safeguarding the peacekeepers through early detection, warning, and response. The focus on peacekeeping during our August presidency is our homage to our brave peacekeepers.
Time now for a short break. We will be back in a short while. You're watching News on the Hour. Stay with us.
News and events take shape. We get you complete coverage of every news breaking in, tracking new developments as they happen. Midday Prime English, Monday to Friday, 2 p.m. on DD India. Your window to rising India. India's voice on global platforms. Latest news from India and around the world. In-depth analysis of global headlines. Watch DD India in your country. Available for downlink in Middle East countries. STTV broadcast is available through the satellite GSAT 17 at 93.5 degrees east. HDTV broadcast is available through the satellite GSAT 10 at 83 degrees east. For technical details, scan here. Switch to DD India now.
Welcome back after the break. Let's get to updates now from Afghanistan. Protests continue in Afghanistan since Sunday when Taliban captured and entered Kabul. At least 3 people were killed in anti-Taliban protests on Wednesday in the city of Jalalabad. After seeking power, Taliban said that they would not take revenge against old enemies and would respect the rights of women within the framework of the Islamic law. Scenes of chaos prevail in Afghanistan as people are desperate to flee the country, fearing a return to the austere interpretation of Islamic law imposed during the previous Taliban rule that ended 2 decades ago. Even though Taliban has promised to protect women's rights and press freedom following the stunning takeover of Afghanistan, a female Afghan news presenter has claimed that she was not allowed to return to work by the Islamist group. In a video on Twitter, Shabnam Dauran said that she was turned away from her job on Afghanistan's state-owned radio television, Afghanistan. The Taliban and the news organization did not immediately comment on the incident.
My name is Shabnam Dauran. I have been a journalist for 6 years and I had been working with Mili Television when I heard that the new system's rules have changed. With the courage that I had in me, I went to the office to start my work. The current system's soldiers didn't give me permission to start my work. They told me that the regime has changed. You are not allowed. Go home. I am asking the world to help me because my life is in danger.
Meanwhile, former Afghanistan President Ashraf Ghani on Wednesday made his first appearance since leaving Kabul on Sunday as the Taliban encircled the capital. Speaking from exile in the United Arab Emirates, Ghani said that he had left Kabul to prevent bloodshed and denied reports that he took large amount of money with him as he departed from the presidential palace. In a video, Ghani said that if he had stayed in the country, he would be witnessing bloodshed in Kabul. He added that he left Afghanistan on the advice of government officials. Ghani has been bitterly criticized by former ministers for leaving the country suddenly as Taliban forces entered Kabul on 15th of August.
Afghanistan must resume its journey towards peace and tranquility. I tried to go to the Ministry of Defense for help, but my guards informed me that my life was in danger as Taliban gunmen were already at the palace gates. There was not much of choice. I either had to stay or go. I could have stayed and started a war, but I had a responsibility to my people, and I didn't want to start a bloodbath like in Syria and Yemen. After I left the country, the Taliban and unknown persons who do not speak any of our country's language entered the palace. If I had stayed, I would have been executed in front of people like Najibullah. I would be hanged in front of my people and the great shameful historical tragedy would happen again. I did not want to disgrace Afghanistan. I will share the details soon. To those who say I ran away from Afghanistan, please do not judge me without knowing the whole situation. I welcome the peace talks that Abdullah and Hamid Karzai are conducting and wish them success. Thank you again to all the security forces. I'm not and was not going to flee. I was saving the people as best I could. I'm currently in the UAE to prevent and try to make decisions that would bring me back to Afghanistan without consequences.
US President Joe Biden has said that he is committed to keeping US troops in Afghanistan until every American is evacuated. He further added that the US troops may stay in Afghanistan past an August 31st deadline to evacuate Americans. Biden had recently come under fierce criticism for his handling of the withdrawal, which in recent days has been dominated by scenes of chaos in and around Kabul airport, with people desperately trying to get out of the country. Biden, defending his decisions, said that problems were inevitable in ending the 20-year US involvement there. He added that it was impossible to anticipate the collapse of US-backed Afghan forces and the speed with which the Taliban took over the country.
The idea that the Taliban would take over was premised on the notion that somehow the 300,000 troops we had trained and equipped was going to just collapse. They were going to give up. I don't think anybody anticipated that.
Meanwhile, US Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin has said that US troops are focused and engaged on securing the airfield and therefore they do not have the capability to help get people to the airport in Afghanistan's capital, Kabul, to be evacuated. The pace at which Taliban forces retook Afghanistan as US and other foreign forces withdrew after a 2-decade-long war has sparked chaotic scenes at Kabul airport with diplomats, foreign citizens and Afghans trying to flee. Austin said that there are about 4,500 US military personnel in Kabul and there have been no hostile interactions with the Taliban and the US lines of communication with Taliban commanders remain open.
We remain laser focused right now on Hamid Karzai International Airport in Kabul and on doing everything that we can to continue evacuating Americans, allies, Afghans who have worked alongside us and also other courageous Afghans at special risk.
A top U.S. diplomat on Wednesday said that the United States expects Taliban to allow Afghans who wish to leave Afghanistan to depart safely. The statement comes after reports stating that the group now in control of the country was blocking airport access. The evacuation of thousands of U.S. diplomatic personnel and civilians as well as Afghan citizens who worked with the U.S. government has become more difficult since the Taliban seized power over the past week. Deputy Secretary of State Wendy Sherman said that U.S. military flights had evacuated about 2,000 more people in the past 24 hours, but that Taliban appeared to be hampering its efforts.
We have seen reports that the Taliban, contrary to their public statements and their commitments to our government, are blocking Afghans who wish to leave the country from reaching the airport. Our team in Doha and our military partners on the ground in Kabul are engaging directly with the Taliban to make clear that we expect them to allow all American citizens, all third country nationals, and all Afghans who wish to leave to do so safely and without harassment.
European Commissioner for Home Affairs on Wednesday said that the bloc needs to immediately evacuate its staff and people working for the member states from Afghanistan to avoid a migratory crisis. Johansson has asked the member states to step up on resettlement of local staff who were working for humanitarian rights groups, journalists and also the European Union.
We have to avoid that people start on very dangerous journeys, irregularly arriving at the EU borders. We should not wait until people stand at our external border. We need to help them before that. I have asked the member states to step up on resettlement. There are people that have been working for fundamental rights, for journalists, for example, and others in Afghanistan that now are under threat and really need to be resettled in safely to the European Union. This situation in Afghanistan, it's not possible to send people back to Afghanistan in these days. It's not safe.
Meanwhile, the European Union has issued a joint statement on the situation of women and girls in Afghanistan. It said that the European Union is deeply worried for Afghan women and girls, their right to education, work and freedom of movement. It called on those in positions of power and authority across Afghanistan to guarantee their protection. Afghan women and girls, as all Afghan people, deserve to live in safety, security and dignity. Any form of discrimination and abuse should be prevented. European Council said that the international community stands ready to assist women and girls in Afghanistan with humanitarian aid and support to ensure that their voices can be heard. It said that it will closely monitor how any future government ensures rights and freedoms that have become an integral part of the life of women and girls in Afghanistan during the last 20 years. The statement has been co-signed by Albania, Argentina, Australia, Brazil, Canada, Chile, Colombia, Costa Rica, Ecuador, El Salvador, European Union, Honduras, Guatemala, North Macedonia, New Zealand, Norway, Paraguay, Senegal, Switzerland, United Kingdom and United States of America. The United Nations has meanwhile started moving up to a third of its international staff out of Afghanistan to Kazakhstan, but stressed that the world body is committed to staying and delivering in support of Afghan people in the hour of need. The United Nations has about 300 international staff and 3,000 national staff in Afghanistan. UN spokesman Stephanie Durak has said that about 100 of those international staff would be moved to Kazakhstan.
The security and other constraints in Kabul and other parts of the country at the moment, it was decided to move a part of the UN staff out of the country. Personnel will return to Afghanistan as conditions permit. The UN is committed to staying and delivering in support of the Afghan people in their hour of need. This is a temporary measure intended to enable the UN to keep delivering assistance to the people of Afghanistan with a minimum disruption while at the same time reducing the risk to UN personnel.
Caroline Van Buren, representative of the UN Refugee Agency UNHCR in Afghanistan, said that there were reports of human rights abuses against women. Buren added that there was a sense of fear and uncertainty among many Afghans and that UNHCR offices around the world were receiving thousands of emails and calls seeking help.
We've been told that in some areas women are not allowed to go to work, and this is a real problem because women are heads of households in some areas and they have to work to take care of their families. In some areas it's been reported that women are not allowed to move without a male family member, a close male relative.
Meanwhile, evacuation process continues to send back the foreign diplomats and nationals. A Spanish plane carrying about 50 people repatriated from Afghanistan headed to Spain from Dubai on Wednesday morning. The plane had flown to Kabul from Dubai early on Wednesday and returned to Dubai before departing to Spain. Spain plans to airlift around 500 people, including Spanish embassy staff and Afghans who worked with them and their families from Kabul. A second plane is on standby in Dubai waiting for permission to fly to Kabul, and a third aircraft equipped with medical infrastructure had left Spain on Wednesday. Officials from the Foreign and Defense Ministries declined to confirm the number of people to be evacuated from Kabul. Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez had offered on Tuesday to create a hub for hundreds of Afghan refugees to be airlifted out of Kabul to the European Union. Over 200 people evacuated from Kabul arrived in France on Wednesday. Now, this is the third evacuation flight carrying French nationals following the Taliban's takeover of the Afghan capital. Now, according to the French Foreign Ministry, 216 landing at the airport near Paris. There were 25 French, 184 Afghans, 4 Dutch, 1 Irish and 2 Kenyan nationals. More than 2,200 diplomats and other civilians have been evacuated from Afghanistan on military flights. Britain's ambassador to Afghanistan said that his team had evacuated about 700 people on Tuesday, while Germany's foreign minister said that it had evacuated 500 people in total. Australia said that 26 people had arrived on its first flight back from Kabul, while Denmark said that it evacuated 84 people on a military plane. The World Health Organization has on Wednesday called on the sides involved in the conflict in Afghanistan to protect all the citizens, including civilians and health employees, while assuring to continue its humanitarian services in the country. In a statement, WHO said that sustained access to humanitarian assistance, including essential health services and medical supplies, is a critical lifeline for millions of Afghans and must not be interrupted. It further said that with the recent conflict, trauma injuries have increased, requiring scaled-up emergency medical and surgical services. In July 2021, some 13,897 conflict-related trauma cases were received at 70 WHO-supported health facilities, as compared to 4,057 cases in July last year. Months of violence have taken a heavy toll on Afghanistan's fragile health system, which had already been facing shortage in essential supplies amidst the pandemic, the statement added. According to the WHO, attacks on medical facilities across Afghanistan remain a stumbling point in efforts to improve the country's health system. NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg will tomorrow chair an emergency meeting of foreign ministers from 30-nation military alliance to discuss developments in Afghanistan. NATO chief in a tweet said that he has convened an extraordinary virtual meeting to continue our close coordination and discuss the common approach on Afghanistan. The International Monetary Fund has meanwhile announced to block Afghanistan's access to the emergency reserve worth $460 million as Taliban's control over the country has drawn uncertainty for the country's future. Earlier on Tuesday, the Biden administration also froze about $9.5 billion of Afghan reserves to keep cash away from Taliban after it captured Afghanistan. to get us more on the current developments in Afghanistan, our correspondent Meghna Dev is joining us. Meghna, good morning. To begin with, I would want you to spell out more updates on the evacuation efforts, the repatriation exercise which has been carried out. We heard the External Affairs Minister, Dr. S. Jaishankar, reinforce that the main concern, the priority for India right now is the safe return of the Indians stuck in Afghanistan.
As the External Affairs Minister said, that the priority is to evacuate and repatriate citizens, the nationals stuck in Afghanistan, and the Ministry of External Affairs is continuously monitoring the situation and is in continuous touch with the Indian nationals there, with the Sikh community and the Hindus as well. So there has also been, as I earlier said, that there has been, landline numbers, WhatsApp number and email ID given so that people can actually fill in their details, and also emergency visa portal is open, people can apply for emergency visa as well. So definitely first thing that the government is doing is collecting the proper information, all the information that is required, and then because we had seen 2 flights had already come to India, the evacuation has happened in a 2-phased manner. Around 130 people had come day before yesterday, and before that also some people had come. So 2 flights had come here from Kabul to New Delhi and repatriated citizens. But how many more citizens are there? The MEA has said that there are still a number of people, nationals, stuck there, and the repatriation process will begin when the details would be collected after that the repatriation would follow. And we will get the details when the Minister of External Affairs confirms with us that when the planes are going and the evacuation repatriation would start. Besides that,
yes,
other countries are also putting in all effort for repatriation. But very importantly, we have been seeing is, as we were spelling out for our viewers as well, that a joint statement, I have the statement with me, this was the statement which has been issued in the context of women and girls, the protection of women and girls, especially for that matter, because the kind of humanitarian crisis that is emerging there, that has been emerging there, in past some time, is very gruesome and is something which is a huge, which is a point of great concern. This joint statement says that the countries are deeply worried about Afghan women and girls' rights to education, work and freedom of movement, and they have also called in those in position of power in Afghanistan to actually guarantee the protection of the women and girls there. Besides that, very importantly, it has been also said that the voices of these women and girls should be heard. It rather not be suppressed, but it should be heard. Besides that, the international community is there to support these and assist these women and girls with any kind of humanitarian aid and support. So very importantly, emphasis is being laid, the concern is being raised on the protection, on the security of women and girls there in Afghanistan. UNHRC, also the Human Rights Council, has called in a special session on the 24th of August to discuss on the kind of humanitarian crisis that has evolved there, and the discussion would actually probably create some effect on the ground in terms of the humanitarian aid that can be provided on the ground. So that becomes very essential. Besides that, also when we see that there's a G7 meeting next week, and US President Joe Biden has spoken with the British Prime Minister Boris Johnson, and the 2 leaders have discussed the need for continued close coordination for repatriation, as well as, very important, the support for vulnerable refugees as well as the vulnerable Afghans. So this is very important on that aspect, the G7 meeting as well. Besides that, NATO also has a meeting tomorrow. So all the international organizations are actually deliberating, discussing on it. India in the UNSC had started discussion on Afghanistan in the first week of its presidency itself, and then again just a few days ago there was a UNSC meeting, and very clearly it was also reiterated that the international community, UNSC for that matter, is very concerned about the situation in Afghanistan, and it clearly stated that the territory of Afghanistan should not be used for any terror activities or threatening the neighboring land.
All right,
so, these are the different kinds of aspects that
yes, very quickly also I want a word from you on IMF blocking Afghanistan's access to emergency funds. What does that mean?
Yes, definitely. When there is not any legitimate government, as we can see as of now, the situation in Afghanistan, the political situation as well as the administrative situation is very fluid. There's a lot of confusion going on. So definitely there is no clarity on who is actually, there in Afghanistan, who is the leader there in Afghanistan, and how the discourse will go ahead. So, the course of events are unfolding as the situation is evolving. So the International Monetary Fund, IMF, has clearly said that the resources would not be given because the IMF actually has a stand that when the international community recognizes or provides any kind of legitimacy to any leader or any person for that matter, or any group there in Afghanistan, till then they would not be releasing the resources for that matter, because the situation currently is very dicey, very fluid, and in a state of flux for that matter. So definitely when the IMF is not releasing resources, it might just happen that in some time from now there might just emerge a kind of crisis, be it the crisis in resources, be it the economical crisis, the fluidity, if we call about the liquidity and fluidity there of economy. So this might just definitely emerge because till then it might emerge till the time that there is no clarity or legitimacy that has been provided by the international community to any group in Afghanistan, or to legitimacy to any kind of political negotiation that can be reached there in Afghanistan. So this is for the IMF. Besides that, there are several things in Afghanistan, because the Taliban has given an amnesty for government officials to get back to work. So in a case, this may also mean that the Taliban wants work to start and things to get back on track, in the sense of people go to work and trying to show a face that everything can be restored to normal, but things cannot on ground be restored to normal until and unless there are still people who are desperately trying to fly off from Afghanistan, escape from Afghanistan. So definitely the situation as of now, as I already told you, is in a state of flux, is very fluid.
Yes, indeed,
and
the situation there is dicey at present.
Decision taken.
All right, Meghna, thank you so much for joining us with those updates. We'll keep coming back to you for more during the day. So that was our correspondent Meghna spelling out more on the way the situation is further unfolding in the country of Afghanistan, and we'll keep you updated. Up next, we're heading for a short break. Stay with us. You're watching News on the Hour.
With the world's largest COVID vaccination drive, India is leading the way. As the vaccine reaches every corner of the nation, do not forget the mantra, Dawai bhi, Kadai bhi. Let's continue our fight against COVID-19. Vaccination along with social distancing, sanitization and masks.
Mask up, India!
Put your mask on and cover your nose and be safe.
Mask up, India.
Welcome back after the break. Let's get to national updates now. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh will launch Defence India Startup Challenge 5.0 in New Delhi today through video conferencing. Now, this edition will have more challenges than the first 4 editions taken together. The launch of this edition will be a massive leap towards leveraging the startup ecosystem to develop India's defense technologies, equipment design and manufacturing capabilities. These challenges will also encourage startups to become more attuned to innovative concepts and inculcate the approach of creative thinking in India's budding entrepreneurs. Ministry of Defence has earmarked a total 1,000 crore rupees for domestic procurement through Innovations for Defence Excellence initiative for the financial year 2021-22. In a bid to seek blessings of people, the newly inducted union ministers of BJP have embarked upon the Jan Ashiewad Yatra in their respective states. Under the Jan Ashiewad Yatra, which is slated to be held between August 16 to 20th, 43 new union ministers will seek blessings of the people. The Union Information and Broadcasting Minister Anurag Thakur is on a 5-day visit to his home state Himachal Pradesh as part of his Jan Ashiewad Yatra beginning today. After assuming the charge of two important portfolios, Union Minister Anurag Thakur is reaching Himachal Pradesh for the first time. The BJP Jan Ashiewad Yatra will pass through all the 4 Lok Sabha constituencies of the state and will cover a distance of 630 kilometers. Also, during his stay, the Union Minister will address public gatherings at different places. Keeping in view the COVID situation, Union Minister has urged the party workers, officials and individuals to follow the COVID protocol strictly during the Yatra. India has expressed desire to expand the horizon of New Development Bank, that is NDB, for strengthening social infrastructure at BRICS Industry Ministers Meet. Union Minister for Commerce and Industry chaired the 5th meeting of BRICS Industry Ministers under the chairmanship of India on Wednesday. The industry ministers of BRICS countries attended the virtual meeting. They expressed their intention to collaborate with the New Development Bank. The theme of BRICS at 15 was intra-BRICS cooperation for continuity, consolidation and consensus for its chairship. A joint declaration was adopted. The ministers reiterated their commitment to make efforts to foster open, fair and non-discriminatory trade environment, ensure greater participation in global value chains, promote digital inclusion, assess the implications and also encourage the progressive, safe, equitable and sustainable use of disruptive technologies for advancing growth. India's efforts of channelizing technology towards good and smart governance, thus increasing transparency and accountability, were highlighted. India has developed a vibrant and dynamic startup ecosystem, leveraged existing platforms and also digital technologies such as Aadhaar and UPI payments for ensuring delivery of critical services to the last mile. Online systems like CoWIN and digital vaccination certificates are being cited as success stories across the world today. The meeting concluded with the BRICS industry ministers reaffirming their commitment to work together as a group, complement strengths of each other, share the best practices and also learn from weaknesses and move ahead in a positive and constructive manner to achieve the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. Under the India's BRICS chairship, the BRICS Space Agency's heads on Wednesday signed an agreement for cooperation in the remote sensing satellite data sharing. This agreement enables building a virtual constellation of specified remote sensing satellites of BRICS space agencies, and their respective ground stations will receive the data. Now, this will contribute in strengthening multilateral cooperation among BRICS space agencies in the meeting, and also that will help in meeting the challenges faced by mankind such as global climate change, major disasters and environment protection. India's battle against COVID-19 continues. In the last 24 hours, the country reported 36,401 new cases of COVID. There are currently 3,64,129 active cases of COVID in the country. The active cases have been lowest since March and also now constitute 1.13% of the total cases. That is the lowest since March last year. Meanwhile, recovery rate is the highest since March and is now at 97.53%. In the last 24 hours, 39,157 patients recovered from COVID. So far, a total of 3,15,25,080 patients have recovered. Weekly positivity rate is less than 3% for the last 55 days and is currently at 1.95%. Daily positivity rate is below 3% for the last 23 days and is now at 1.94%. Indian Council of Medical Research, the apex body at the forefront of formulating COVID-19 testing protocols in India, has achieved the milestone of conducting 50 crore tests on Wednesday. With average daily testing of more than 17 lakh in the month of August, India has tested 50 crore samples across the country till date. India has achieved the milestone of the last 10 crore tests in only 55 days. On 21st of July, India had tested 45 crore COVID samples, which reached 50 crore mark yesterday. This has been enabled by rapidly increasing testing infrastructure and capacity across the country. ICMR has been enhancing COVID-19 testing capability across the country by expanding and diversifying testing capacity by leveraging technology and facilitating innovation in affordable diagnostic kits. The testing strategy has been carefully calibrated to increase access and availability of testing. The total number of diagnostic labs has reached 2,876, of which dedicated government labs are 1,322 and private labs stand at 1,554. India has administered more than 56.64 crore COVID vaccine doses so far. Over 56.36 lakh doses have been administered in the last 24 hours. In Uttar Pradesh, in wake of the weakening of COVID infection, government has decided to open schools up to 8th standard for physical classes. The classes will be held as per following of COVID protocol. As per the order issued, the classes from classes 6 to 8th will resume from August 23rd, while classes from 1st to 5th will restart from 1st of next month. Schools and colleges were closed for physical classes due to COVID-19 pandemic in the state in March this year. Physical running of classes in Madhyamik, higher education and technical education institutions has already been started from 16th of August. In Nagaland, the 15-day-long fifth phase of unlocking began today. Unlock 5 will continue till 2nd of next month. During the period, all officers and half of the government employees will have to attend offices, while gymnasiums, which were earlier allowed to function with a maximum of 50 people, can now operate with half of their respective capacities. All relaxations granted in Unlock 4, which is in force from August 2nd till 18th, will remain in effect. Let's now take a quick look at the COVID numbers from across the world. As per the figures, we know that the world is continuing to fight against the pandemic. Over 21 crore people have been infected by the virus so far. More than 18.82 crore people have recovered from the virus, and over 44 lakh people have lost their lives globally. The United States remains the worst infected country since the beginning of the pandemic. The cases have seen a surge again. The country has reported more than 3.8 crore cases so far, while the death toll in the US has surpassed 6.41 lakh. Let's get you some sports updates now. India's 4x400 meters mixed relay team won a bronze medal in the Under-20 World Athletics Championships in Nairobi on Wednesday. This is India's 5th medal in the history of Under-20 World Athletics Championship. The Indian team consists of Bharat S, Priya Mohan, Sami and Kapil. Indian team finished 3rd in the championship final with a timing of 3 minutes 23.6 seconds. Nigeria won the gold with a timing of 3 minutes 19.7 seconds, while Poland won the silver. Indian young wrestlers performed brilliantly in the ongoing World Junior Championship wrestling competition in Russia. India ended its campaign in men's freestyle event with 6 medals, including a silver. On the last day of the competition, Ravindra missed out on the gold medal in the 61 kg weight category. He had to be content with the silver medal. He had to face defeat to Iranian wrestler in the final. However, taking full advantage, Indian wrestler Yash won bronze in the 74 kg weight category, Prithvi Patil in the 92 kg category and Anirudh in the super heavyweight category. And World Photography Day is being celebrated today. To mark the occasion, a biopic of acclaimed photographer, photojournalist Raghu Rai will be streamed by Films Division on its website and YouTube channels for 24 hours. The film titled Raghu Rai, Hearing Through the Eyes, portrays a journey through the inner and outer world of the legendary photographer. The film wades through an intertwined passage of photographs, personal narratives and worldviews that combine in the process of the making of a maestro and his life. And Prime Minister Narendra Modi has shared a video posted by singer Kailash Kher on his Twitter, giving glimpses of PM's interaction with the athletes who represented the country in Tokyo Olympics 2020. Calling the singer's effort great, the Prime Minister said that the video gives a wonderful glimpse of the spirit of New India and accomplishments of the country's Yuva Shakti or the youth empowerment. Let's take a look, and with that we end this edition of News on the Hour here. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.
मेरा मत है कि जीत को कभी सर पे चढ़ने मत दो और हार को मन में बसने मत दो। खिलाड़ी कभी उम्मीद नहीं छोड़ता और उम्मीद छोड़े तो वो खिलाड़ी नहीं होता। वंदे
वंदे इस रास्ते कोई मोड़ नहीं, मेहनत का कोई तोड़ नहीं, मेरे भारत का कोई जोड़ नहीं। एक उछाल में अंबर छू लिया, एक जिद की प्यास में समंदर पी लिया, बूंद बूंद पसीने निखरती जिंदगी।
आपका पसीना आज देश की करोड़ों बेटियों की प्रेरणा बन गया।
गर्व से भरे सीने को करती बंदगी, एक पल में मानो जैसे एक जन्म जी लिया।